Hi there, today I'm working on a very simple exercise, but what I'm really doing is trying to spring load the legs. It's not so much about this exercise, which is basically jumping up and down or squatting up and down, but what I'm trying to do is activate the ligaments, the tendons, a stretch in the joints. And it's not about the knees, it's about the ankles and the hip joint, so not the knees. You see, what you've got to do, first of all, let's just try to isolate the individual joints. Straighten up the legs nice and straight, squeeze the glutes, so you're pushing your hips forward, but pull the belly in and still slightly arching backwards. The chest is slightly open, tilted up. And here, with this nice straight body, just bounce up and down on the ankles. What you've got to do is feel the Achilles tendon. And you're trying to create this bounce, a stretch and a recall of the stretch in the Achilles tendon. And now we're doing it in the hip joint. So again, keep the spine natural, slight backwards arch, belly pulled in. I'm just putting my hands here to show you. But as you lever forward, you've got to lever at the hip joint and feel a stretch here on the glutes. You see, you're trying to project the hips back, and now you push the hips in. So you project backwards and then squeeze the glutes to push the hips back in again. Your glutes are active, but you've got to feel a back stretch, a projection of the hip joint. The bone itself is moving, and what you'll feel is a stretch in the ligaments, the tendons, and that is what gives you the bounce, because that wants to pull back in again. Now we're trying both together, so you're bouncing on the ankles and the hips. The knees are slightly bent, but try not to do any work in the knees. You've got to feel it in the hips and the ankles. Any force, any pressure on the knees, stop, slow down. You're trying to take the force off the knees and take it here again into the hips. You can see bouncing into the hip joint. I'm levering slightly forward. I've got to lever forward to activate the hips, but then squeeze the glutes to bounce back up again. You see, it's all in this stretch in the hip joint. Now, once I've got that, I'm on the ball of the foot, bouncing on the ankles and bouncing here on the hips. Again, it's a careful control of your center of gravity, not the knees. You've got to feel it in the hips and the ankles. You see there the ankles, I'm bouncing on the toes. The knees are nearly stationary. The movement is in the ankles and the hips. It's very tricky. It's a simple thing to do, but you've got to feel it. You've got to be very accurate, very careful. Try slowly and carefully. It's the secret to internal power. You're not using the muscles, you're using the ligaments. And this is the power you can use for jumping and, of course, in martial arts. It's the same power you need in kicking. Now we break it down. What you're doing here is bending the knees over the toes in front. So you're dropping your weight forward. That makes your heels come up. So now you can feel you're on the ball of the foot. But your knees won't go any further. Now you project the hips out. Pull the belly in, still arching back. You project your hips backwards. This takes the pressure off your knee. Then drop the knee further forward, but then project your hips further back. You see, when your knees go forward, you're stretching the Achilles tendon, but then you take the pressure off by projecting your hips. The lower you go, the more of a stretch in the ankle and a stretch in the hips. See, right down here, I've got a massive stretch in my glutes. I can really feel the hip joint stretching. And if you want to go lower, it's about stretching the hips further. If you don't stretch the hips, you'll find it very difficult to go down. Now, to get up again, it's tricky because your hips have gone below the knees. If you lean forward now, fall forward, it allows your hips to rise up without too much work in the knees. You're not using the knees. But once your hips are above the knees, now you can use the hips, squeeze the glutes to rise up. But the leverage is in the hips, not so much the knees. Again, the trick is the ankles. So here, drop forward, then lever back. Drop forward, lever back. Drop forward, lever back. As you drop forward, you're stretching the ankles. As you lever back, you're stretching the hips. Then to rise up, you fall forward, project the hips, and then bounce upwards. Now you've got a squat. Again, it requires a bit of flexibility, but you can see here at the bottom, I'm bouncing. I've got a stretch in the ankle. I've got to feel it, and I've got a stretch in the hip. Now the bounce is between the ankle and the hip, not the knees. You see, most of the problem is we work the knees here. It's not the knees. Look at the ankle. I'm actually pushing the toes into the floor to rise up in the ankle. That's starting a bounce. But now as I bounce, the hips go up first, then I can straighten up. This takes the pressure off the knees, and now again, once more bouncing. The secret is the ligaments, and you've got to use the strongest ligaments. The strongest tendon is the Achilles tendon, and of course the strongest muscle, and therefore very strong tendons, are in the hip joint. but the knees are weaker. You've got to be very careful of the knees. So that's where we've got to get the accuracy right. It's all about the accuracy. And again, in between, always loosen up, shake your arms and legs rather, and twist left and right, relax in between. Now what we're trying to do is build it into an actual jump. So you're going down, but as you go down, cushion it into the ankles and cushion it into this backwards projection of the hips. Then to jump up, you push the toes into the floor and squeeze the glutes to push the hips back in again. Again, not so much the knees, it's the ankles, the Achilles tendon and the hip joint. Now again, slow motion, feel the stretch in the ankle. See, the lower I go, I'm stretching more and more. The shin bone is trying to go down to the toes. And at the same time now, I do the hips. The lower I go, the more of a backward stretch, a projection of the hips I create. Again, I'm not compromising the spine, belly pulled in, always a slight backwards arch. Now the bounce, again, just bouncing in this position. Look, the ankles and the hips, not so much the knees. When you get it right, it's nice and easy. It's a pleasant bounce. It's not a jump. It's not work. You're not using the thigh muscles. You're using a stretch in the ankles and a stretch in the hips. Now, I also call this the concertina effect. And I'll leave links below to that video, but I do suggest you check out my earlier series, The 9 Principles of Body Efficiency. So I hope this made sense. It's very simple, but it's very detailed. You've got to feel inside your body and get it right. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in any of these other videos here.